Hi guys, welcome back to another video in this channel. Today I have a very cool technique, tip, trick, or workflow, however you want to call it, for anyone that's been exploring our Zbrush course and you guys have been creating some amazing stuff in there. Well, now I'm gonna show you how to properly set everything up so that we can create this right here. So what you're seeing right here is Displacement Map inside of Arnold. We've talked about Displacement Map before. If you've never heard about them, check out our video recommendations and you're probably going to find some displacement reviews that we've done in the past. But we know that displacements are a map that we sometimes use that will create more, well, it won't create more geometry. It will push the geometry at render time inside of Arnold to really get those details in here. So one of the main things, one of the issues that a lot of people struggle with is I have a really cool sculpture in Zbrush, like this guy right here, and I want to showcase him in the best possible way, right? Like I want to showcase every single like pore and wrinkle and detail. I want to make sure that the render has every single piece intact, right? And the problem is, well, we can't take it, right? Like this guy right here on Zbrush, he has almost 5 million points, which is about 10 million geometries. I mean, we could take it, but it's going to be really heavy for Maya. And if we wanted to like animate it or rig it or whatever, it just doesn't work, right? So what we need to do is we need to go through a process called a displacement process where we will bake out maps here from Zbrush that will get the information of where the points should be once the object is like subdivided to this point. So I'm gonna try to make that a little bit clearer because I think it's a lot of like very technical words and it's a little bit complicated. So imagine you have like a little circle and this circle is your level 1 subdivision. And let's say it has, I don't know, like 100 points, right? And then you multiply or super divide this guy and then on like a really high level, you create like a little shape. Let's say like a plus sign. You carve in like a plus sign here on the element. And this is gonna be level 5, okay? And let's say we have like 1,000,000 polygons, okay? So 6 zeros, there we go. So what we need to do is we need to bake this information into a map, into like a texture map that tells the object, hey, when you have 1,000,000 polygons, you need to push these polygons up in order to create the, or in this case down, in order to create the little like plus sign and render it exactly as you have it here in Zbrush. Most of you guys already know the process when we do this for games, which is called the normal maps, right? However, for film, for commercials, you sometimes are going to be using this method, which is displacement map. It's a little bit different, okay? So the way this works is very simple. You're going to go into your object, and first of all, you need to have two main things happening here. You need to be working on subdivision levels. So as you can see, this is my subdivision level 1, and this is my subdivision level, I believe this is a 5 or something, 6, subdivision level 6. So we have 6 levels of subdivisions. Thor, come on, man, what's your problem? He's very anxious. Oh my God. Give me just 1 second, guys. Let me get this guy out. I don't know what that was. He's usually not that angsty. Anyway, so you have your subdivision level 1 and you have your subdivision level 6. Another thing that's very important is for my subdivision level 1, this one right here, I need to make sure to have UVs. You can get this automatic UVs here from Zbrush, or you can export this element and get the UVs in Maya. I actually did this UVs in Maya, and these are my UVs, right? The head UVs, very traditional UV mapping technique. Now that we have this, we're going to be using a plugin that is here inside of Zbrush, which is called, let me like dock this over here. It's called the Multi-Map Exporter, this one right here. And there's a couple of things that we need to export. So I'm going to select displacement because we're going to be using a displacement. And I'm going to be selecting export mesh because I do want to have the mesh just in case I did any like sort of like tweak, like if I move anything here, I want to make sure that I have like the latest mesh selected here inside of Zbrush. So displacement and export mesh. Some people like to export the mesh like manually. I haven't had issues by exporting it here, so you can try either way. Now on the options right here, there's a couple of things that we need to check on the displacement map, of course. As you can see, there's a lot of other different maps that we can export. We can export a normal map, we can export cavity map, ambient occlusion. We don't need any of this because normal map is a fake way to get the detail. If we are actually going to have the detail, you really don't need to have the normal map, right? Because the detail is going to be there. You don't have to fake it. So we're going to go here to displacement, and here's the very important piece. So first, you need to go to the highest level of subdivision, or the subdivision level from where you're going to be baking from. So in this case, I'm in subdivision level 6. And here on the subdivision level, I'm going to select which is going to be my low subdivision level inside of Maya, right? So in this case, subdivision level 1 is going to be the one that I'm going to have in Maya. So this one right here, okay? So the low subdivision level. So Once I have that, I need to turn on smooth UVs, because if I want to, I can go in Maya and press number 3 to smooth the guy, and that's going to smooth the UVs. You're going to leave this at 0.5. 0.5 displacement mid value tells the object that any value above 0.5, like from gray to white, is going to push the vertices up, and any value from 0.5 down to like blacks is going to push the vertices down. Some people, and in some production pipelines, you might find people change this number. For my personal work and for like the clients I've worked with, we've always left this at 0.5 and it works just fine. 32-bit and EXR, super important. Do not forget to check this out, 32-bit and EXR, because this is going to make sure that the image that you're exporting is super high fidelity, and that way everything is going to work exactly as you would expect. And scale, we're going to leave as 1. Everything else, just leave it like that, and we just hit create all maps. It's going to give you this. Let's jump to our project here. So let's go to Nexttut Live. Let's go to source images, and let's create a new folder called Displacement Test. There we go. So I'm gonna call this, this character's name is Morkan. He's one of my characters from D&D. We're gonna say Morkan export. And as you can see, it's gonna do its process, it's gonna do the bake, and we're gonna get the image. There we go. In my computer, it says it took 26 seconds. I don't think that was 26 seconds, but that's what it says. And just to show you that this is actually working, let's go to Photoshop. So here in Photoshop, if we go to our project, right here, source images, and we take a look at the displacement, this one right here, the EXR, you're gonna see that the EXR, like you won't see anything, and it's really like weird, right, to see an image with like no information in it, but it's actually here on the red channel, and I know it's very difficult to see, but as you can see, there's values there, there's colors. If I hit Control L to go into my levels, I can actually push these things like this, like crunch the values, and you're gonna see that we start getting the actual like information. Let me see, like we can't cross that line, of course. And there, it's a little bit easier to visualize, right? Like all of the information is there. For our eyes, it's going to be a little bit difficult to see, but for the computer, it knows like every single pixel has a value that's important for us. So don't modify anything here. I just want to show you here. Let's jump into Maya. I already have this like a scene test, which is the render that I did, but I'm going to show you from scratch how to do this. Let me just save this image because this is the thumbnail. You've probably already seen it. So let's call this displacement render. I'm not going to talk about lighting right here. It's just like 2 lights. We'll show you real quick. So it's just, as you can see, it's just one top light right here, one side light right here. There's 2 heads at different scales. I want to show you this. The displacement, if you do this process, you're going to be able to scale your meshes with your rigs and everything, and they shouldn't break. Like you should have the displacement working every single time. So it's just 2 lights and a single HDR. So let's create a new scene. Don't save. Well, I should have saved actually. I did save before, don't worry. There's like another version that I saved. So let's go here, and if we navigate to our Nexttut Live, and we go to our source images, to the displacement test, we're gonna have this. So this is the OBJ, this is the EXR, and this is the MTL. We don't need the MTL, and I'm just gonna drag and drop the OBJ here. I know that it's black, it's a bug here on my computer, but this is the head right here. First thing I need to do, mesh display, soften edge, very important. There we go. Let's move this up. Again, you can move it, you can scale it. I'm not going to scale it just yet because I want to show you that it works at this scale first, and then we'll scale it. Let's go Arnold, lights, area light, or not area light. Arnold, lights, sky dome light, and let's just add a very quick HDR. Like, yeah, that one's fine. Just like a very flat image. There we go. And now the material, right? We've talked about this before. Again, if you haven't seen the videos, go check them out. Very cool, especially when you're doing like ground and mountains and stuff. It works very nice for like tileable textures. But for characters, as you can see, it's a little bit different. So I'm gonna press Tab key, and I'm gonna type in AI standard surface. And this is my basic material, so I'm gonna call this character MTL material. And we are gonna type or press Tab key again and just write displacement. And this will create a displacement shader. So we know, or you should know, that the displacement is another part of the main like shading group. Every object can be shaded on its surface, on its volume, and on its displacement. So this right here is gonna go on the displacement tab right here. So it's just a matter of connecting this there, and this one we don't need anymore. Now, to the displacement shader, we're going to connect, of course, the little image that we just created, which is this one right here. And if you remember from Photoshop, the only channel that has the information is the red channel. We don't need any other information because it's a black and white image. Now, by exporting this as an EXR, it automatically will recognize that this is supposed to be a raw color space. Just make sure that that's set to raw, and connect the R to the displacement. And there we go. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to increase the roughness because I don't want this, and I'm going to lower the white color so that we can see a little bit more of the detail on the character. Select the character, right click, assign existing material, and we assign the character material. And again, from our displacement lessons, we know that we need to go into this object right here, go into Arnold, Subdivision, and select Cadmut-Clark Subdivision. This will tell the object to subdivide, to smooth out, to have more polygons at render time. And ideally, you want to have the same amount of like levels that you have in Zbrush. So in Zbrush, you remember we had 6 divisions. So I'm going to have this at 6 divisions as well. So all of the detail is there. So we can see every single piece of the detail. So there we go. Now we hit render. And we wait. I'm going to pause real quick while this renders. And ta-da! This is the displacement, and it sucks. It's not looking the way it should be looking. And I remember when I was learning Displacement Map, this was an issue that I ran into like quite a bit. A couple of years ago, or not a couple, like several years ago, doing displacement was like a nightmare, The renders were not like really prepared, and it was really difficult. That's why everyone did like bump and normal map, because it just was easier. But now it's a lot easier. You just need to know what's going on here. So what's happening here is something very simple, but at the same time, something that it's not as obvious. So when we were in Zbrush, if you remember, we set this thing so that the gray values started at 0.5 and then up and down, right? Depending on the color. Well, we need to set that up here as well. And a couple of versions ago, you would find this on the mesh itself, but nowadays, at least on the most recent version, this is 2022, you're gonna find this on the shader, okay? So on the displacement shader, on the Arnold tab, you need to change the scalar 0 value to 0.5. Super important. That's it. That's just it. It might seem like, again, something really simple, really stupid, but you need to make sure that it knows that your mid values are your mid values, right? So now when we render, as you're about to see right here, come on, Arnold, are you rendering? Render. There you go. Ta-da! Now it works. Now it's actually rendering, and it knows, now that we have set that properly, it knows exactly where every single point should be. And again, as I mentioned, one of the great things about displacement map, especially if you do it this way, is that if you scale your object either up or down, it should respect that same displacement information. So for instance, here we have 3 different sizes. This is the original. These are scaled. I have not frozen the transformations or freeze the transformations, like it should be exactly the same. And if we render, let's stop this right here. Let's close this, Arnold, and render. If we render, we should be able to see the detail on all of them. So let's just give this a second. Should be rendering now. Should be loading. Remember, we're subdividing these things like several million times, so we're gonna have a lot of polygons at render time. That's why it's taking a little bit longer. And should be working. Why is it not working? There we go. There we go. So now, as you can see, all of them, the medium size one, the big size one right here, and the small size one, all of them are sharing their displacement map at the height or at the size that they know, right? Like the size that they should be using. And look at the detail there. Look at the amazing detail. Again, this is real detail. These are real polygons that are being pushed in and out of the scene. And this is what we would eventually use for like a rig. I'm gonna show you this real quick as well. So just so that you guys believe me, I know you guys believe me, right? You know I'm not telling any lies. But let's say we were to rig this guy, and I'm gonna do a very simple rig right here. It's not gonna be like an actual rig. I'm gonna use a lattice, and lattices deform the position of the vertices. So let's say we're doing like this sort of like weird effect where we rotate the character around in this sort of like spiral form, like this. Let's do something like this. I know this is super crazy. I know it's super crazy and looks ridiculous, but believe me, it's It's a really good idea, because this could potentially be like, you could see this as a skiing cluster, right? Forming the character. So let's go here and render. And again, let's just give it a couple of seconds. And we should see this thing like completely deformed, completely like broken, but with all of the proper displacement endpoints. So let's see if it works. And yeah, it works perfectly. Look at that. We can see the scar, we can see the wrinkles, we can see every single thing. So if you extrapolate this like super weird example into an actual rig, like a functioning rig with like facial stuff and everything, all of the points, all of the displacement that you're using would be projected onto the character. So yeah, this is it, guys. If you want to create amazing renders like the one that we're using on the thumbnail, this one right here, and you want to use displacement, then this trick is for you. Hopefully you guys like this video. We're going to continue with more stuff. Make sure to recommend or suggest more topics on the comments, and I'm always happy to take them into consideration for the next videos. And yeah, I'm preparing the next course as well. We just released the newest course, by the way. I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the video. We just released a new course on Substance Designer, which is a really powerful software. Check the video on our links as well. Check the descriptions down here for all of that information. And I'm also preparing my next course, which is going to be coming really soon. And I'll keep you guys updated for that one. So yeah, hang on tight. I'll see you back tomorrow. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. And that's it. Bye-bye.